So, thank you very much for joining us and a warm welcome to our webinar, DACH Expansion Made Easy. Within this webinar, you will receive all relevant information and all numbers about the DACH market and what's important for your really successful expansion to the DACH region. So be prepared. And first of all, some information about us. So who are your hosts for today? So my name is Stefan. I'm the managing director at Proficio for the DACH region. Nearly 15 years within agencies doing performance marketing, working for brands or worked for brands like IKEA, BMW, also especially BSH, where my team heavily consulted also on internationalization strategies. And with me today is also Lisa. So Lisa,
Hi, nice to have you all here. Yes, my name is Lisa. I am a director for digital advertising and work also for the Proficio group in the Munich office. I've been in agencies just over 7 years now and have always focused on everything to do with paid media. So all the advertising, digital advertising, ranging from paid social media to, of course, paid search, but also display and video. I have worked in the past with a lot of international brands like Sky, IKEA, but also fashion brands like Eless, Speedo, and most recently also shoe brand Bilenka. A lot of international experience as well, as I used to work in the UK with companies who were looking to expand into the DACH region and also into other European markets.
Perfect. And also some more information if you don't know Proficio, so some more facts about us, about the Proficio group. So we are responsible for the DACH market. Proficio is a agency located in the CE region. We are responsible with one team for the whole DACH market, and together we have 150 experts with a lot of experience specialized in performance marketing, paid media, and so on. And with our managed media budget of over 50 million, we definitely know what works in your market, how to achieve the highest efficiency, and what revenue is possible to gain as much as possible. So at a glance, we are your expert, your sparring partner for your expansion and also your growth strategy. We consult you on all aspects, on all sales relevant operations, manage all relevant marketing channels for you, not only for the DACH region, but of course, so the focus here is now for the DACH region. Beyond this, to see or to, as a proof concept, you see here the case for Sanitino, where we have 10x the revenue of Sanitino in the last 5 years. Sanitino is a shop for sanitary products. And we, covered everything around the expansion strategy. You see, we are part of the Google iGap program. We have access for you for a bunch of data for dedicated markets and industries. So we know what we are talking about. And now, before we come to the main presentation, perhaps some remarks for the webinar. As you see, really sad news, of course. Within the tool, no GIFs are working. So no GIFs, but also no AI created images. But hold on, there will be a lot of numbers which are arrive in a short period of time. We only have around 45 minutes, a lot of data. And beyond this, be ready. It is really e-com focus. Of course, we have also a lot of information for B2B companies, but this is the target here is mainly on e-commerce. There will be a lot of e-commerce info. So yeah, I hope you're ready. If you have any questions or feedback, just drop it in the chat. We pick it up, and that's now enough from my side now. And Lisa, let's give it a start.
Yes. So with the webinar today, we've got a lot of topics that we're going to cover. We will talk about the market as a whole, shopping behaviors, the most important sales channels, and then we'll also give you some insider tips and a good structured way for your DACH launch as well. So let's start with the DACH market as a whole. To start with, I want to give you just a bit of an overview of the size of the market, why is it such an important market, and why is it such a good idea for you to expand to DACH at the moment. So the DACH market is the biggest region within Europe. It's got 102 million people living within it. Most of those live in Germany at 83 million, and also Austria and Switzerland, which have about 9 million people each. German is the second most spoken language in Europe, and the DACH region is also the region with the highest GDP in Europe. And Germany specifically has the fourth highest GDP in the world. The DACH market makes up about 30% of the EU 27 GDP, so a whole big chunk. And obviously, a lot of this is coming also from big cities. The biggest cities in the DACH region are Berlin, of course, as the biggest one by far. And then on second place, we've got already an Austrian city, Vienna, at 2 million, and two more German cities at very similar size as Hamburg, Munich. And the biggest Swiss city is Zurich, with just under 500,000 people living there. A special case within the DACH region is, of course, Switzerland, because Switzerland isn't quite like the other two DACH countries. It doesn't just have German as the main language, it also has French and Italian. It is also not part of the EU, so it has a different currency. It has the Swiss franc. It is, however, within the free trade agreement, so it is not quite as difficult to export to as other countries who are not within the EU. However, there are some differences that you should look out for. Important country nonetheless, because it has the sixth highest GDP in the world, and it is among the highest average net income per capita countries. So people have a really, really strong buying power in Switzerland. One other thing to watch out for before going ahead with your DACH expansion is legal topics. There's a whole host of legal aspects that you should really take into consideration and think about before expansion into DACH. Some examples here, for example, there are specific rules of what you can have in your web shop on your checkout button. You cannot simply say bestellen, which means order. You have to be very, very specific with your wording. Otherwise, competitors and companies who are specialized in sending out warning letters will come after you for not implementing this correctly. Another, of course, really important topic also, cookie consent, privacy, but there's a whole host of more topics. It's very important that you check in with local lawyers that are specialized in media, because there's a lot of ways you can put your foot wrong, and you really wouldn't want to do that in the DACH region, as people love rules and love compliance. Why is now such a good time to expand into DACH? When asked whether customers are already willing to shop at foreign shops, 21% said absolutely yes. And that is a lot more than it used to be previously. In 1 year before, it was only about 17%, so a big increase there. And overall, 61% of customers currently say that they would somewhat or completely prefer a foreign provider if shopping that is cheaper. So price is a really big factor for DACH customers. And that is why now is such a good time to think about your expansion. So in a nutshell, the DACH market is the biggest by GDP in Europe. There's some legal topics that you should really keep in mind. And if you ever thought about DACH expansions, right now is a really, really good time to go ahead with that, because people are really open to shop from shops that are not originally from the DACH region. That was the first section. If you have any questions at all, please just leave them in a comment in the live chat, and we can answer them throughout the webinar. Some of the most interesting ones, we'll even pull them up and discuss them at the end when there's time. So yeah, feel free to ask questions at any point. In the next section, we'll be talking about the DACH shopping behavior. And we'll go into more detail about how DACH customers shop, where they like to search, and where they like to find their brands. So if you want DACH consumers to discover your brand, there's one place to be, and it is Google. DACH consumers, the number one place for DACH consumers in all three countries for brand discovery are search engines. And the biggest search engine in these countries, of course, is Google. Bing does also have a market share of around 10-11% on desktop. So not to neglect Bing, but the biggest source of discovery is Google. And that is even more and even bigger than more traditional channels like, for example, TV ads or word of mouth. The top websites and apps in Germany, you can see here, so the very top website and app category is chat and messenger apps, but right after that, at just 1% less, is all of the channels that you can reach customers at. So shopping, search engines, social network, and also emails, which is really good for you as a business because it makes it easier for you to reach your customers. DACH consumers also shop online more than the EU average. The EU average is just under 60%, whereas all 3 DACH countries are above that, with Switzerland at the highest at 71%. DACH consumers like to buy, they like to buy fashion and clothing, but they also buy event tickets, entertainment, subscriptions, food, hotel and travel accommodation. They buy a whole host of things online, with e-commerce and fashion being the top industry.
So perhaps sorry to interrupt you, Lisa. So if you have any more questions about the details of the graphs, because we have a lot more numbers for you, especially for like the industries Lisa mentioned. So just drop us a message and we can also send you details if you're interested.
Exactly. So then one more thing to think about with DACH expansion is the conversion rate. So the average global conversion rate is at 3.65%, whereas within DACH, it's a little bit below that at 2.22%. So you can see from there, DACH consumers are a little bit more hesitant still to buy possibly from brands that they don't know. They need trust signals. They need a good reason to buy from you. At the moment, they're more open to buy online than they have ever been. So right now it's a good time, but it needs to still have some consideration and done with a lot of strategy behind. Reasons why customers do convert. As mentioned, better price is the #1 reasons for customers to say, yes, we will buy online, but also factors like free delivery, so convenience. They had a positive previous experience with the brand online. There's more products to choose from. They can return for free, which means there's a low risk of buying online, and they can get it delivered fast as well. However, maybe more importantly, there's a whole host of reasons why they don't convert online, and the 3 biggest reasons are delivery, returns, and payment. So when delivery is not free or it takes too long, customers are put off from buying on your web shop. Returns, again, a big topic. 25% of people say if returns are not free or are too complicated, they will not buy in that shop. And payment method. 24% people say if there's only one option in payment methods, and it's not the option that they would choose, then they're being put off from buying in a web shop. So payment methods, it's not the most straightforward topic because it's not just in the DACH region we pay with credit cards. In fact, only 28% of Germans pay with credit cards, which is one of the lower end payment methods. Yes, in fact, we like choice, but we prefer PayPal by far. It's the most preferred payment method in Austria. 82% of Austrians say they prefer PayPal, and 65% of Germans like to use PayPal. So that's a really good option that you should definitely offer your customers on your web shop. But also more niche options, for example, invoices. It seems really vintage and retro to still be using invoices, but 71% of Swiss people and 42% of Germans like to pay by invoice. In fact, some of them, 26%, still like to pay by bank transfer, which seems really 1980s at this point, but here we are. We like what we like. In Switzerland, then we've got also a very another niche or online provider that is used by about half of Swiss people. It's called Twint. It works in a similar way as Google Pay and Apple Pay. It's an online wallet that Swiss people use. And then we've got the topic of Klarna, or buy now, pay later. And that's also a really popular choice. Every fourth internet user in Germany has used a buy now, pay later function at least once in online shops. A lot of the big players use it. So it's also something that we recommend you strongly consider when thinking about your payment methods that you offer in your web shop. And then another thing to think about when planning your expansion is return rates. The DACH region has some of the higher return rates in the world and in the EU, which means it will eat into your profit margins a little bit. Of course, this widely varies on industry. There are some industries that naturally have higher return rates, like fashion and shoes. They're both above 20%. Some fashion categories are even above 30% return rates, so quite high. But that is definitely something to think about when expanding into the DACH region. And another really important topic, DACH shoppers don't like to be tracked. So in a CE region, about 60 to 65% of users will accept cookies. In the DACH region, it's 50% or less. In Germany, it's more around 45%. So really low cookie acceptance rate, which of course eats into your data and into your data accuracy. 30% of people also like to use ad blockers, and another 23% of people use a VPN, so tracking becomes even more difficult. But we do have solutions, so we're not just leaving you here with problems. If you do think about expanding into the DACH region, and if you do encounter tracking issues and things like that, we can definitely advise you on that. There is tools and there is ways around this so that you can get the maximum insights and data still out of your DACH web shops as well. So in a nutshell, also the shopping behaviors, more than 60% of consumers shop online. To bring that into relation, that's more than 60 million people in the DACH region. Quite a big market to go after. Offering preferred payment methods is really crucial, as well as, of course, delivery and returns. And customers are extremely data conscious. And as mentioned before in the legal topics part, we're sticklers for rules. And when rules are broken and our data privacy is invaded, we don't like that as consumers. So that's really something to be aware of for your web shop. And
perhaps
now I'll hand over to Stefan.
Yeah, perhaps also here we had before a question from Michael asking if you have also experience with B2B and non-e-commerce in the DACH region. So the short answer is yes. The long answer would be it is impossible to integrate here all different industries, especially B2B is very specific. So just reach out to us and we can get in touch. There are different tools which we also tell you something about in the next slides when it comes to like your roadmap or your plan to the expansion where we mentioned this. So there will be definitely, of course, some data also for B2B, but this is kind of the special case because it's a really specific topic here then. When we come now to the sales channels for your expansion, of course, the main question is, where is my target group active? Where should I be visible with my brand? So you see here also, Lisa already talked about that the DACH region is a Google-dominated country. So this is definitely true for all countries in the DACH region. So Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, everywhere Google is dominating. Beyond this, the main websites are, of course, e-com focused and social media focused. So beyond this, we have, of course, after that, Meta with Facebook, with Instagram. We have also TikTok, and of course, our shopping channels are most relevant. For shopping, it is especially Amazon. So you see Amazon is the like on place 2 for the top websites in Germany, similar to the other countries. So this is really important to point out. So there are slight differences for Austria and Switzerland. We mentioned here, for example, a news website with ORF.at, Willhaben.at is also a shopping website specified here in Austria, and some news websites for Switzerland. But also here, many details. If you're interested, just reach out to us here. And as I mentioned before, Germany especially, but the whole DACH region is like an Amazon region, an Amazon country. You see here in the data that 60% of the whole e-commerce revenue is generated by Amazon, with Amazon itself and Amazon Marketplace. So it's now for 2023, it's nearly it's 60%. And the growth rate here is 30%. So the Amazon Marketplace was the only section which grew over the last year. So Amazon was quite stable. All other e-commerce websites were stable, but Amazon Marketplace increased. So you see, it's an Amazon game. You're talking about nearly 2/3 of the whole online revenue here. So as I mentioned before, it is an Amazon country, Amazon region. Also, to give you here the information, nearly all DACH customers have shopped at least once in their lifetime at Amazon. It's 96%. This visibility, if you want to be active here on Amazon, so Amazon offers with Marketplace and Amazon Ads, of course, advertising solutions now, but this comes with a price. So if you want to be active here, you have to pay an average CPC of 54 cents. Of course, this is different per category and so on. It can get cheaper, but it can be, of course, also way higher. So it depends on the product here, for sure. So you see, Amazon is dominating, but as I mentioned before, it can be really expensive to be there. And once you're on Amazon, it is difficult, or it is tricky to prioritize your D2C strategy with your Amazon strategy. So Amazon is an important discussion for you and for the expansion strategy in the first step. But of course, it's not only about Amazon. There are also other marketplaces, other shops which are relevant for Germany. It's especially Otto and eBay. For Switzerland, the situation is a little bit different. So Amazon is on position 4 with the German domain. So Amazon.de is the top 4 website in Switzerland and the top website in Austria. So this is important. Beyond, in Switzerland, there is Digitech and Galaxus, so really local players to keep in mind. And in Austria, it's MediaMarkt and Zalando, and also Universal, so also a local player here. When we come to the advertising spend in the DACH region, it is really considerable. It is really, really high, double-digit media budget in billion. Oh, sorry.
I thought while we're on ad spend, this is a really fitting question. Thank you, Marek. Marek is asking which regions we would focus on with ad targeting, if there's any specific ones to target or any specific ones to avoid. Maybe my take on this one, and then I'll let Stefan to also give his view on this topic. My take on this one is, one, don't target the DACH region as a whole with one campaign, because the DACH countries within themselves, so Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, will behave differently. Also, you will likely have different landing pages that you want to send them to, your different web shops. So you want to personalize your approach still within the DACH region. And then within each of the countries, it really depends on your product or your service. So if you have something that is really focused on an urban audience, then and you have a relatively restricted budget, and you can start maybe with the top 15 cities. If your product or your service are physical and they have a radius, you can target around that radius. Otherwise, what we recommend is starting broader and then going smaller, because you need the data first to learn and to gather your insights, and then you will see where your campaigns perform best, and from that take a step back and become more and more efficient. But in the first step, you'll need to gather data, unless you already have that data from previous experience, in which case you can take that on board as well.
Yeah, I think perhaps also a comment from my side here, it also depends on the industry you're in. So we showed the question from Michael regarding experience with B2B. So B2B is a different game in comparison to e-commerce. For e-commerce, it is recommended, of course, to do it on a country basis. When we are talking about B2B, of course, there is an option only to offer a language variant for the region. But as I mentioned, this is really specific case by case scenario. We come later to the recommendations how to handle this, where we talk about this really shortly. So if you're interested, as I mentioned before, reaching out to us, we can support you definitely with the situation, with the differences and what we recommend here. So coming back to the advertising spend, what I meant, so the advertising spend in the DACH region is really huge. So we are talking about more than $20 billion, or also 20 billion euros per year. So for the last year, and it is still growing by nearly a double-digit year-over-year. So in nearly 10% per year. To compare this advertising spend, for example, it is more than 3 times higher compared to the whole CE region. So it is absolutely huge. And most of the advertising spend is going to the digital channels, mostly, so especially in Germany and Austria. Switzerland is also a little bit different. So yeah, also here, what Lisa was mentioning, be prepared or watch out. So don't handle all countries all together and say, it's just German. There are really important differences. And if you want an efficient strategy, if you want a good ROI, you have to watch out here. When we are coming to search and social, we talked about that the top player from a website perspective is, of course, Google in the DACH region. Directly afterwards, the social channels are coming. When we are looking at the ad spend level for Germany, for search and for social, you see here the growth rates or the overall rates for the last 6 years, and also for the future, it will grow. And search has over 8 billion euros at the moment ad spend per year. Social channels, 4 billion euros, of course. So you see the relevancy here is more on search than social, but also here it depends on your product, it depends on your industry, what makes sense. Perhaps social is a better fit for you and your products. But you see, search is really still very higher in comparison to social channels in the DACH region. Also, when we come to top search spenders here, to give you like an estimation where the top players are, they are mostly from the FMCG industry, and they are all having double-digit ad spend numbers for search only. So if we take P&G, which is the top spender in Germany, has around 95 million euros, and it's going down up to double-digit numbers. So the competition, I think what we want to say here, the competition is quite huge. Be careful when you have a budget. The spend should be, of course, higher compared to other regions, but it is important to optimize it to the country or to the region, as it would be expensive if you make mistakes. When we come to the social media channels, the social media advertising, to give you an assumption what channels are mostly relevant, you see from a reach in Germany, YouTube has by far the biggest reach with 88%, Instagram with 44%, and of course everybody at the moment is talking about TikTok. It is still behind the top 3 players, but it is growing and growing, and next year they will definitely be before Facebook. So it will be interesting to see. When we are talking about B2B, of course, you see here LinkedIn or X. LinkedIn is, of course, a good option to advertise. So watch out here. LinkedIn has a good reach in Germany for B2B business. So think about LinkedIn advertising also. If there are more questions, more details about LinkedIn or the channels, we mentioned it already, just reach out to us. So in a nutshell, what we mentioned from a shopping perspective, the DACH market is an Amazon market. So you saw the numbers of 96% of all users shopped once in their lifetime at Amazon. We told you about the top marketplaces here against, perhaps more insight against popular belief. Kaufland is a big marketplace, but is not within the top 5. It's in the top 10, yes, but it's not big as estimated, perhaps in some countries. So this is also an important insight here. And if you want to be fast and you want to have fast success in Germany, you have to go with Amazon. Because it's a fast way to penetrate the DACH region, but as we mentioned before, it can be really costly, so be prepared. And overall, still the digital advertising spend in the region is still growing, and paid and social are by far the biggest channels for advertising.
Now you have almost made it. It's the second to last part where we will be talking about cross-country differences and all the little niggly bits that you should be looking at when you expand into DACH. So like with an iceberg, really, you've got... Oh, sorry.
Perhaps Lisa, before we come to that, it makes sense to also come up with a question of Michael. He's asking, what are the main differences between the Czech market and the Germany in terms of online marketing? What do Czechs neglect to consider on the German market? What should they keep in mind? So it's a good question, but also a difficult one. So we saw, of course, we mentioned, okay, they're really focused on search engines. They're really focused on Google. Beyond this, Meta is a huge topic. So perhaps to give you one insight also to the CEE region, for example, social channels have a higher relevancy compared to the DACH region. So this is definitely one topic. And beyond this, from my perspective, it really depends on your product and your industry.
Absolutely. Another thing that also should be considered in terms of online marketing, often we've seen the approach of the AI can translate this and that'll be enough and that'll do for now. And that is often also where Czech businesses, but also other businesses expanding into the DACH market have a little performance fall down, that they don't consider that Germans really like that German experience. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the next section as well. Exactly. But from an online marketing perspective, really think end to end. So really think from your product or your service to the customers, every touch point. And every touch point should be localized and should speak to the German or the Austrian or the Swiss customer. That goes from your product that needs to look and feel European, Western European, to say, to the labeling, to the legal aspects, to your web shop that needs not just a translation, but that needs a cultural translation, that needs to feel German. From the logistic aspects to the customer service, the very last bit, and the loyalty side of things, just think end to end. I'm speaking to a different customer. I'm not just translating for them.
Yep.
Which leads me to exactly this. This was a very good question, very good timing, Michael. So we've got obviously the the obvious parts of the iceberg, the things that you see that you'll think about immediately when you think about DACH expansion, but we've got a lot of the hidden bit as well, the market and the people knowledge that aren't always as automatically thought of, and some businesses don't have the knowledge and the experience with to even know about these hidden bits. But you don't want to be the Titanic, so think about the hidden bits as well. On the tip of the iceberg, of course, you'll think about your domain. Do you want to have a .com domain? Do you want to have a .de, .at, and .ch domain? Your language, you'll think about the product adaptation, the labels, any different colors, sizes, different service adaptations you might need to make, the legal aspects, logistics, delivery, returns, your customer service, and you'll also have an overall marketing and e-com strategy. But if you want the trust and then of course also the revenue of the DACH target group, you have to really understand the needs and the attitudes of this customer group. And there are a lot of hidden factors. Maybe one of the number one things to mention is Germans love a review and a badge. Germans love certificates and badges, and if you have a trusted shop badge, automatically that will help your conversion rate. If you have reviews from other customers, whether that is even to start with your own customer base, if there's translated reviews, that will already be better than having 0 reviews in your web shop. There's also cultural elements in the language as well. So for example, on the right hand side you can see the top translation is not wrong, but it doesn't feel like a German web shop. So there is a lot of cultural language elements as well. Don't rely entirely on AI translations. They're not human. They're grammatically correct, but they often sound very funny, and it takes about 5 seconds for a German to detect that was done by a machine, not by a human. And then there's this level of mistrust of like, okay, they don't have anyone that speaks German there, so if I have a problem, I can't speak to anyone there. That's the immediate association with it's not quite done quite to the German standard. Also think about your payment options as mentioned before. Check the different service providers. In the DACH region, there is a big service level difference between different delivery companies. Some are known as just not being great. Others are better. So look at who you work with and how satisfied your customers are with the delivery. And if they're not really satisfied, pick a different logistics partner to work with.
Perhaps also here to jump in, there's a good question from Mark. Should Czech online shops hide that they come from the Czech Republic? So I think there's a short answer. No, they don't have to hide that fact. So you are one brand. Show your brand and show transparent. And this comes to the key factors here: how you deliver, where you deliver, how the returns are handled, how your customers have to handle the returns. Do they cost? Do the returns come with a cost because they have to send it to the Czech Republic? This will clearly decrease your conversion rate. So you should definitely not hide it, but you should communicate your facts, how your customer service is handling. Do you have a customer service only in German or only in English? And so on and so on. So be transparent with your services and with your offer. So you don't have to hide it, just make it as good as possible. So it totally depends on the stage where you are, how important the market is, what are your goals within the market, and then we can have a discussion about how to handle this.
Yeah, maybe a good example is Skoda or Volvo. They don't hide, they're not German. Everyone knows this. German customers still buy them because they're very competent in the German market. So you don't have to hide the fact that you are Czech at all or from any other country at all. Just be competent and professional in the German market and give the German customer the feeling that despite not being from their home country, you are just as available, just as competent, the quality is just as good. they can reach you just as well, return the products. There's all the same standards as with German or Austrian or Swiss brands, and they will be just as happy with you. Which also nicely summarizes the key factors for that success. So trust is a really big one, and anything from correct web shop translations, languages, adaptations, to reviews, to trusted shop badges or any other badge like review badges that you can officially get will help. The design, sometimes if the design is very specific and is very unlike any of the competitions or very unusual for an industry and not unusual in a great way, then think about that aspect, think about delivery, think about how to approach promotion, visibility in the market. Do you want to go with Amazon? Do you not? And also the customer service, as mentioned, is really important. We have one more question about comparing LinkedIn with Xing. Yes, the preferred and also the more widely used one in Germany is LinkedIn. Xing is also still used, but is much more niche. Yes, so LinkedIn, you will have a wider reach and a broader audience. About 26 to 28% of Germans are active on LinkedIn. So of 18 plus working.
So LinkedIn, the market share of LinkedIn is hugely increasing and Xing is decreasing. And for advertising especially, LinkedIn has by far better solutions. So advertising with Xing is possible, but it is kind of tricky and it's complex and so on. So it is definitely so. I think it's an easy question. Go with LinkedIn.
Yes, because most people who are on LinkedIn, who are on Xing, are also on LinkedIn. Yeah. So you can reach them there as well. And then maybe one last word of advice. If you look at all the relevant factors and you implement them correctly, you will definitely be able to increase your KPIs and you will definitely be able to make the most out of your DACH expansion. And to have a structured approach, Stefan will guide you through some of our steps that we use for expansions.
Exactly. So as I mentioned before, we will now talk about how handling your DACH expansion or how in general handle your expansion strategy. Therefore, we have 6 steps. So in the first step, define your expansion strategy. In detail, start with a definition of your expansion goals, your targets, what are your stakeholders, define the selection criteria for your target country. So it's more or less do a short SWOT analysis, the perfect product market fit. Therefore, on the right side, you see our expansion canvas. Just scan the code, ask for access, or just drop us a message and we will send you the canvas, which you can easily be used or also adapted for your needs. So it's a good way to define your strategy because this definition is really, really important for your goals, which should be reached in the dedicated market. So which market do you want to start with? As I mentioned before, as we mentioned before, you should not take DACH as one country. It's 3 countries, also with Switzerland, with different languages. So be prepared for that. So analyze this, define this. And in the next step, analyze it in detail. And here we come to the topic which I mentioned before. Especially for B2B, it is a little bit more complex to get to your needed data as, for example, also like insurances, for example. It's totally different topic. We have different tools for this. For example, here we mentioned Statista, which offers great information or also public available. Eurostat is also good. You can like have a bunch of data here. But of course, some of these data or some of these things is like German only, so you need it. One remark would be like to use the simple translate option via Google Chrome. So this would be quite easy, but be prepared to analyze it for your market, for your industry, for your target group. Watch out for your competition. Do I have a pricing, like have I a better price, or should I check this? How is my marketing channel behavior, what Lisa already mentioned. So it is a huge difference to do this in Switzerland or in Germany, for example. And of course, we talked a lot about legal and tax requirements in the first step. A local specialized lawyer is worth the money. Yes, it's expensive, but it will save you money afterwards. So this is clear. And Lisa talked about also all the soft factors: design, language, payment, logistics, and so on. If you just translate it, it doesn't feel right. So analyze this, reach out to freelancers, reach out to us. We can help you if you need something. So this is really important in the second step. And then I think it totally goes to prepare yourself, your organization, check everything with your needed departments, validate your processes. Do they work for the dedicated region? Of course, localize your product, localize your creatives, your websites, check your logistics, what we mentioned before. Tell the customers what they have to pay for. Be clear here, because if you hide something, it is not a good experience, and the customer will not buy a second or third time. So this is really important to localize this, to be transparent, because like what we have learned from the preparation, and it's really important to localize it, as this is the key for your launch and for your success here. When you launch, it is really important to check everything around, as we mentioned before, with the translation, local payment methods, GDPR topics, trust signals, and so on and so on. So make it ready, make it available for your market. I think I mentioned it before. So for e-com website, it's absolutely recommended to have a local domain ending. So work with .de or .at for Austria, or .ch for Switzerland. If you have a B2B company offering services, perhaps it can be good, or it's easier to have only a language variant. But this is like a step or case-by-case scenario. So if you're not sure, just reach out to us and we can discuss this. Afterwards, of course, extend and adapt your marketing campaigns, your strategies. This is really, really important that you adapt your campaigns. So when we overtake performance marketing accounts from companies from other countries for the DACH market, we often see mistakes within the correct keyword setup, the target country setup. As we mentioned before, it's not like the 3 countries are not the same. So be aware of bidding on competition. Also a huge mistake, that you're spending a lot on competitor keyword because you don't know the local competitors, and it sounds like a just normal non-branded keyword, for example. Also price comparison is a topic. There are several price comparisons like Idealo and so on. Use the ones which have a good fit to your brand. Also affiliate networks. We know that CJ, for example, is big in different countries, but it's not big in Germany, for example. Here you should go with Avon. So it's totally a different game here. And when you are ready, when you are prepared, I think there comes one last step. Always test new things, improve your setup day by day. It's a key topic also for us as an agency. We want always be like a better version the next day after. So test it, optimize it, try things out. It is important to emphasize here. If you improve your website and your marketing activities, it's really possible to improve your revenue and also your ROI by more than like 20%. So for example, for another client of ours where we overtook the campaigns from a foreign agency, we improved the ROI by more than 20%. So this is totally possible to reach these numbers only with the localization of campaigns. So be open for this scenario here.
Perhaps with the test and learn, that's a good question as well to talk about. The number one mistake Czech eShops make when they try to enter the DACH market. Do you want to have a go, or should I?
If you have, sorry, I had just to read it.
So some of the things we've noticed as very common mistakes are really the checkout process on web shops. The checkout process on about 75% of web shops that we have worked with or reviewed or audited in any way are not how they should be ideally. They are either missing the correct payment methods, or there is some confusion around translations, which then evokes that feeling of I'm not sure I should buy here. There was also some technical issues at the checkout process that we have encountered, and again, almost all of them legal issues, and that at the checkout process is a big problem, because in German law, the checkout process needs to have a certain way and a certain wording to ensure it's a legally binding contract, basically.
Yeah, perhaps also another remark here regarding, like, there is not the number one mistake. Of course, like what we often see is that the campaigns are just like copy and pasted to another country, just translated and like adapted. I think this is not a good setup. As we mentioned before, you're burning a lot of money. As we mentioned before, CPCs are really high. It doesn't make sense to tell you an average CPC for Germany or for Austria or for Switzerland. It's a totally different game, but it's really expensive if you just copy your campaigns. So this is one topic. And for the online shops, Lisa mentioned the checkout topic. And I think number one mistake when we mean by quantity, it's the translation issue and all the issues which come with the translation, like legal issues and so on, and the soft factors that you don't have the conversion rate that you would have with a proper German. So it is really important here to like be prepared for your target group. Like Swiss people want to be like, it's different game for Switzerland or for Germany. So this is really important to point out here. And perhaps the last question here, is the written language exactly the same, slight difference or more different compared in the countries? So overall for German, it is mostly the same, but there are some certain differences, like how you write certain words. It's difficult to tell, but the sofa, for example, has a different naming in Austria, for example. So like the pillows have different wordings in Germany compared to Austria. So of course, there are definitely differences. And if you want to target the Swiss market, it is not a good option to use your German website or just to copy and paste the German website. So this is definitely, or there are definitely differences. So to come to an end, as we have more or less already an hour, just to sum everything up, to give you our tips here, which we more or less have now repeated at a certain point. As we mentioned before, number one tip is, of course, analyze and structure your expansion. So we gave you the expansion canvas, or we showed you the expansion canvas. It's a good tool to prepare yourself to think about it. And then afterwards, another really important tip is native marketing professional check is a must. We talked about language differences. We talked about this. This is really important. So check this, be prepared, and also validate your costs and profits. Of course, Germans or especially Swiss people spend more money. So of course, your profit could be higher in Switzerland compared to Germany, but check out competition. What is the best combination of pricing to conversion rate? So we can help you with that. And the most important question afterwards, if you are an online shop, is like, should you be visible on Amazon or would you avoid Amazon? This is definitely a huge topic. And what we discussed a lot, localize the customer service. Think about the payment options you have, the delivery options you have for the different countries. So for payment options, keep in mind that in Switzerland, TWINT is really important. And also you have certain differences like payment by invoice would be an option to increase your conversion rate, to increase your customer group, and so on. And of course, adapt your marketing activities. And there we mean not just translate it, really adapt it to your market need here. And of course, as we mentioned it, we support you during your go-to-market strategy. We consult you on everything around it, your digital marketing activities for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We can help you out for that. So here's an opportunity for you. If you're interested, reach out to us via the email. So we give away three free DACH consultations for you. So just reach out to us and contact us. And then thank you for your time. So really great questions, really interactive. So thank you for that. If you're interested here, just scan the code. We have a pro magazine, really focus for CMOs. So the future role of CMOs, it's really interesting. So just scan the code. And if you have more questions here, just book a meeting with us via the other QR code. Reach out to us via LinkedIn. We are happy to help you with your expansion. So that's it for the day. And that's it from us. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you all for checking out our webinar. Thanks.
Bye. Bye-bye.